Hello. Thank you for coming to watch the Sticka mitt hjärta, Knit My Heart podcast. My name is Maivor and I come to you from Vasa in Western Finland. I am a lifelong knitter. I am also a Swedish-speaking Finn, which means that even though I live in Finland, my first language is Swedish. So that's why my podcast is actually in English, so that I can reach as many people as possible. Especially perhaps I'm saying this for any new Swedish viewers that I have, because I know I have some new Swedish viewers. That I speak English so that people in my own country can understand me and people in other countries as well. I am filming this on November the 28th, I think. It is the first weekend of Advent here in the Nordic countries. We like to celebrate Advent, the four Sundays leading up to Christmas, by lighting a candle each Sunday. So tomorrow on the 1st of Advent we will be lighting the first candle. And of course on Tuesday is the 1st of December, and that means that we can start opening our Advent calendars if we have Advent calendars. I don't have a yarn calendar this year. I wasn't fast enough to get any of the indie dyer calendars that are offered. They often go from the shops very, very quickly, and I wasn't able to get one of those, just as well really, because I saved a bit of buck there. And I also don't have a yarn swap calendar, which I actually had last year, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed opening the yarn packages, but I don't have that. I didn't get onto that this year either. But I do have a tea calendar, speaking of tea, which I thought I would just briefly show you because it's just kind of fun. Because it's a Moomin calendar, a Moomin tea calendar. Of course, being from Finland, the home of the Moomin troll and the Moomin family. And this is just something I bought from the supermarket, the regular supermarket. It's nothing fancy or particular about it. But I bought it mainly because many of the other tea calendars that I looked at had all these sort of Christmassy flavors with spices and things, and I'm not really into that. I'm more of a classic, black and green tea kind of girl. So, and this had those kinds of flavors. And also, I thought the names, because all the names of the flavors are listed here at the back, and they just had these really cute names. Let me just read a few of them. Strike Me Pink, Tangy Trick, Wonderfully Splendid, Oopsie Daisy, Magic Storm. These are some of the names of the tea flavors that are in this Moomin calendar. So I'm going to enjoy opening my Moomin teas in December. This is by Nordqvist, which says here it's a Finnish tea house. So it's a Finnish importer of teas, I suppose. You can buy these at the supermarkets here in Finland. So, a bit of Moomin for my December calendar. Now on to knitted stuff. This is a knitting podcast after all, not a tea podcast. I am wearing my Tumtum sweater. I don't think I've even showed you this. No. I whipped this up fairly quickly and I finished it, and I'm really happy with it. Let me just stand up and you can get a bit of a closer look. It has this very simple texture here on the yoke, knit top down, and then it has also at the bottom here. Just has a simple stripe, and at the sleeves as well. So generally just a basic top-down round yoke sweater, but really fast and easy to knit, and I really really like the result. I have been wearing this quite a lot already. The designer is Yamagara, Japanese, I believe, and the yarn that I used is by a Finnish indie dyer. Her name is Ruskanlehti. Let's see, I have the ball band of the yarn here. That is her label, and this dark gray, it's a semi-solid, so you can see it has just a bit of variegation in the yarn there, and that is the colorway asphalt or tarmac, and this speckled colorway is also by the same dyer, and that is called Ruosteinen naula, which means rusty nail in English. This is a polwarth yarn. Let's see, 100% superwash polwarth, and that it was the first time a finger weight yarn. This is the first time that I've used a polwarth yarn. I believe polwarth is a mixed breed, a breed mixed with merino and another, or either that or the yarn is a mix. I won't go saying for sure now, but it's not. It has similar qualities to merino. It also has similar qualities to blue-faced Leicester. So maybe it's somewhere in between there. Not sure. But anyway, it's a very nice yarn quality. See, not as soft as merino, which I think actually is a good thing, because I think that will make it more resistant to pilling. But not as rustic either as in some of the more rustic breeds, basically. Yeah, so a very nice yarn to knit with. Not grabby in the sense that if you think about making a color work, for instance, where you want a lot of that adhering, the yarn adhering together, it doesn't really have that. It has more of these, it is more smooth in its character. So yeah. Oh, and I was gonna say this at the beginning, but I'll just say it now. My last episode was kind of cut off in the middle because I forgot to press the record button for about half of it, and so I said this next episode would actually be part 2 of that episode, but it's been so long since that one, and I even started recording this episode a few weeks ago, and I just had endless technical difficulties with it. So and you know, when that happens, and you try and fix it, and you try and edit it, and you try and do this, and you try and do that, and then you just have to stop, and then you don't get going again, and the hurdle to keep going or to continue from where you left off just gets bigger and bigger. So I decided, no, I'm just gonna start this episode afresh. So this isn't the part 2 of anything. Sorry, folks, if you were expecting a part 2. This is just a regular episode. I believe this is episode 8. And so this time I am filming with a different setup than I have been before, which means also that I will probably not do the editing and putting the graphics in the film itself which I normally try to do and which I like to do because I think it looks nice and polished. But just to get the episode actually out there, I will not do that editing this time, but all of my information and all the projects and all the yarns and everything will be in the box below, the show note box. Yeah, and I also forgot to say, well, this is what happens when you're filming, when you're just gonna film and then you just forget half the things you're gonna say. You can find me on Ravelry as Maitessa, and my Ravelry pages are up to date with all my projects, so if there are any details that you're looking for and you are a Ravelry user, then you're welcome to browse my Ravelry pages or be my friend on Ravelry. And on Instagram I am Stickamithjarta, Stickamithjarta, not with an Finnish A but with an English A. I do put most of my finished projects on Instagram, but depending on the photography or the weather conditions, basically the lighting conditions at this time of the year, they may not always appear there at the same rate that they are finished. So sometimes they will appear here on the podcast first, and sometimes they will be on Instagram first, depending on what the weather allows you to do with lighting and so on. Today is a really gray day once again. I am filming this with only natural light, so I hope lighting is okay. But light is not something that we are blessed with in great abundance at this time of year. But we do have a light dusting of snow now, which is nice because it brightens everything up a bit. Okay, that was just all the technical stuff. Back to my finished projects. With the yarns left over from this sweater, actually this speckled yarn, or this variegated yarn used here, I had quite a lot of it left, so I felt, you know, I'd like to do something with it because it's such a nice yarn. Too nice to just be lying in my stash. So I whipped out a shawl with the same yarn. Let me show you the yarn. This is what it looks like. And I think I literally did this within a week. It's something about shawls, they are just so addictive. You start and then it grows really fast at the beginning, and then once it gets a little bigger you just want to finish it. So this one was really fast, and this I came off the needles last night, so I haven't blocked it, but it is finished. It's a smallish shawl, it's not very big, but it will grow a little bit with blocking, I'm sure. And it just has a very simple eyelet stripes, and then a lace edging. I don't know if you can see, which ends with this other color here as well. So I expect that to really open up really nicely when blocking. So the yarn, of course, is the same Ruskanlehti yarn. This one, and this gray one is a Holst Supersoft. A Holst Supersoft yarn that also was a leftover. And I finished just about all of it. I had just a tiny bit left. I don't have the color of that one now. I will put it in the box below, and it will be on my Ravelry pages. But yeah, A shawl, I think this is just about the right size, actually, for me. If I'm wearing it with a coat, this is a good size shawl. And I think it's actually really pretty. It's nice and neutral, so it goes with a lot of different things. And yeah, the design is Scottish Highlands. The name of the design is Scottish Highlands, and the designer is Kay Hopkins. I don't know her Instagram name because I just found this on Ravelry. Yeah, the Scottish Highlands shawl. I have never been to the Scottish Highlands. I would very much like to go one day. Yeah. What else? I have some socks. Where are they? Here they are. Oops, sorry. These I've finished. I don't think I've shown you these before either. Some bubbles. A short row heel, or it's the fish lips kiss heel. These are knit toe up, and this is a pattern or a tutorial actually by Miss Evil Knits, who is a podcaster, a Swedish podcaster here on YouTube as well. And she published a tutorial for these socks, a 4-part tutorial. She hasn't written the pattern in written form, but the tutorials are on YouTube. And she wanted to present different techniques, how to knit a sock using different techniques. So there is the toe up heel, and then there's just a little bit of color work here, and a short row heel. I did actually the fish lips kiss heel, which I prefer. She had another heel, and then I also did some mini gussets here, which weren't in the pattern, but I put those in just to create a little bit of more space here over the heel. And then there is the Latvian braid, and then there are the bubbles, and then there was a 2-color bind off, which was actually new to me. All the other stuff I did know how to do, but the bind off was a new one, and that was actually really nice. It worked, and it looks really neat and tidy. So yeah, that was fun. It was a sort of a knit along that she had, and I've knit these as a gift, and I think I will actually meet the recipient tonight, so I will give them to her. They are a bit longer, bigger than my size, and the yarn that I've used here is this variegated yarn is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in the colorway Seedling, and I have the yarn here. Lots of it left, probably enough for another pair of socks or something. This I think is really pretty, but I found it actually a bit difficult to find a project for it. I bought it for the colors and for the name Seedling, which I think is just springy and nice. But I've tried combining it with other colors, shades of green. I've tried combining it with some white, I think, and none of them just did the color and the variegation of this yarn justice somehow. So this was becoming a bit of a problem child. But then I had this sort of yellow, very light yellow in my stash, and I think that these two go really well together. They bring the yellow brings the sort of yellow undertones in this colorway out really nicely. So yeah, another pair of socks. And then I also made another one more pair. These socks, they just happen. I somehow socks. I've knit about. I've counted. I have about 20 pairs of socks in my box of socks that I've knit during the last year. Yeah, socks for life. Anyway, once I'd finished those ones, I started another pair and I finished these as well. These are not blocked yet, so they are a bit scrunched up, but I can see the color is washing out a bit. It's because I have a window right opposite me. But they are basically a scrap project, leftover yarns from other projects, and the design is let's see now, Flower Shock, I think. Flower Shock by Yarnesty, Anna Friberg. She's a Swedish designer as well. And so the flowers, these are the flowers. There are flowers on the color stripes and all the way around on the cuff. Yeah, and so were these also knit toe up? Now I have to think. Yes, toe up as well. So again, I've used the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I think I even used a tubular bind off here for these. I have used a tubular bind off before, but I've always found it a bit fiddly, and it is when you start with it is fiddly, but once you get the hang of it, it really is very neat, and for some purposes it's really useful. And I also bound off all of the edges on this sweater. So for instance, this one and the hem with the tubular bind off. It is really worth learning, because once you get the hang of it, you know it, and then it's just one more tool in your toolkit for bind offs. Yeah, what can I say about these? The colors, well, they are just scrap yarns from my stash. This is the same yellow Arwetta, did I say even? This is the same colorway as here. It's the Arwetta Classic. So this is also Arwetta. This is Arwetta. The gray here is Lankakauppa Kera merino sock. So that's a hand-dyed yarn that I also used for some other socks previously this year. Some of the socks that were in the Handmade Sock Society. Can't quite remember which one of it was, but I've used that yarn for those. So I had some of that left over. This is some sparkly yarn. I don't know if that shows. Also hand-dyed. This is Handu hand-dyed, which I also used in my Winter is Coming socks. And this is also a Kera merino sock. So these are also a gift, and I need to block these. I have some ends to weave in, and I'm gonna block these and send them off now during Advent, I think. Yeah, I think that were all my I'm looking around to see if I have any other projects lying about that that are finished, but I don't think so. And I think I only have one ongoing project at the moment, because I finished that shawl last night, and I have plans, of course, but I only have one thing that's going on at the moment, and that is a pair of socks, of course. That's the second sock, and this is the first sock, which is finished. Now this is difficult to... So this is just a cuff down sock with a short row heel, and then it has this really pretty cabled panel going down one side of the sock. And this is called the Unity sock. And I looked up the designer, but I think I'll have to look it up again. Melissa Meaton, maybe? Let me just check. Oh, sorry. Unity socks by Melinda Measer was her name. Melinda Measer. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's more of a sock recipe. There are instructions both for cuff down and toe up. You can easily adjust the number of stitches. I used 60 stitches because I made this for myself, and it's quite snug on my foot. I'm not sure now which heel was on the... No, there was an afterthought heel in the pattern, but I don't do afterthought heels generally, so I just did my Fischlipskis heel, and yeah. And the yarn here is Lankakauppa Kera again. I bought three hand-dyed yarns from her earlier this year, and this is the third colorway. Two of the other ones were in the previous sock pairs, and this is the third one. And I think all of her yarns are really pretty. They're really harmonious. She says that she's inspired by the archipelago where she lives, and somehow I think you can see that this now I can feel the color is a bit washed out, but it has just a touch of pink or purple, sort of a dusty mauvey kind of color. Maybe I can show you the yarn. Maybe that will show it better. So a really nice neutral, a very calm, wintry kind of color, I think. Yeah. And having said that, I just realized that I forgot a couple of projects, or finished projects that I was going to show you. So just 2 seconds and I will pop up and go and get them. Okay, back again. I have made 2 headbands. Both of them are test knits by the same designer, and she is Power of Wool on Instagram, and her name is Anneli Verbrugge or something. That's her name. I'm not sure now what her Ravelry name is. I could actually check that out, because these are, I test knit these for her, and they have just been released maybe a week or 2 ago. So let me just see. Yeah, Anneli Verbrugge is, I think, no, her username is Power of Wool on Ravelry as well. And this one is called String of Pearls. So it has these baubles and it has cables and it has this little texture down in the middle. And this one I knit out of Rauma Finull. So that is a completely woolen one. And the other one, this one is called Grayish Mist. And it also has cables, and then it just has these sort of increases and decreases down the middle, which creates this slanted stitch panel. And for this one I've used the same yarn as this yarn. So it's the polwarth, the Ruskanlehti polwarth yarn, but then I've combined it with a strand of silk mohair. Let's see, maybe I even have it here. No, sorry. But it's Sandnes Tynn Silk Mohair in a grey or steel grey colorway. So 2 strands held together here, and that makes it sort of really fluffy. And I'll just briefly put it on. To put my glasses on so that I can see myself. Yeah, keeps your ears really warm and toasty. I didn't used to wear headbands for winter because I used to have short hair. But for the past 2 years I've grown my hair, and now that I often keep my hair in a ponytail or up somehow, I find that headbands are really practical. Actually, it's more practical than trying to put a hat over that hair thing that and that will also just push it up when you're out and about. So this, especially when perhaps the temperature is not -20, this is really nice. So I can highly recommend these patterns by Anneli. You just knit one long band and then you Kitchener stitch it together. They're well written, you can easily understand them. And I think the design is really pretty on both of them. So that was actually a very useful garment that I've made for the winter. I've already used them a lot. So yeah, but that, I think, was all of my projects, my ongoing and my finished projects. Now I have made quite a few yarn acquisitions. I'm going to show you just a few of them. I'll show you a few of them, and I'll show you also what I'm thinking about making. Just have a bit of tea. I can perhaps first show you some yarn that I bought, that I actually originally bought with the idea of making this sweater. Now this is what happens to me all the time. I buy something thinking, yes, I have that pattern in mind, and that's what I'm gonna make with this yarn. And then when you actually start planning that project, or you start thinking about that yarn, you feel, well, maybe not, maybe I'll want to make something else with this yarn, or maybe that pattern actually calls for another yarn. And that's exactly what happened with this one. I had already bought this yarn, a sweater quantity of this yarn, which for me, a sweater quantity of fingering weight yarn is 300 grams. So for this I used, I think, maybe about 250 grams of the main color, and of this, well, probably only about 20 grams or so, because I was still able to make that shawl, and I still have quite a lot of it left. So a fingering weight jumper for me, I think is about 300 grams altogether. So I had bought this, and I was thinking, and I was planning a completely different garment for this yarn. But then when I decided now I'm going to make the Tumtum sweater, I realized, no, I want to make it in this yarn and not in this yarn that I had actually bought for it. So this means that I still have this yarn free. It's free for another sweater project. So I have a sweater quantity of this, and this is Wilmy Once. She is a Finnish indie dyer, and this is the colorway Stormskärs Maja, which is it's a story, it's a book, it's a piece of music that is very Finnish, I would say. It's played out in the Åland Islands, and it means, Stormskär means stormy island, sort of. And I think this colorway actually reflects that. It is very reminiscent of an archipelago storm. And this is her BFL sock. So this has 75% superwash BFL, blue-faced Leicester, and 25% nylon. Yeah, and this I have a small cake here that I've caked up. Oh, it's a bit, oh well. So yarn often looks different when you cake it up. So you can actually see here that it has quite a lot of these darker sections. So whereas this might look as if it's fairly unicolor, it actually is more variegated when you look at it like this. And I think that was the reason that I actually decided not to make this sweater out of it, because I think that maybe these variegations would have distracted too much from this yoke. And my plan when I bought this was actually to combine it with another yarn, which is a silvery gray. It's also hand dyed, but it has very subtle variegations. And this is by Rovaksilmusolmu. Rovaksilmusolmu. You know, these Finnish words are, even for me, sometimes a bit difficult to pronounce. That is her. She is also a Finnish indie dyer, and this is her merino sock yarn. So this is a 75% merino and 25% nylon superwash yarn, and these do go nicely together, but this could also be combined with other stuff, and this could be combined with other stuff. So at the moment, none of these really have a clear purpose. But fear not, I'm sure they will find their pattern soon enough. I'm also thinking a little bit about combining this one with a mohair, and just doing one of these fluffy sweaters with it. Yeah, so both of these I actually bought at a in real life yarn event that I went to earlier this fall, at a point where the corona restrictions weren't as bad as they are at the moment. We've had, well, we all know what the situation is like here in Finland. In our region, things are looking good at the moment, but in other regions, things are not looking so good, and there are fairly heavy restrictions on what you can do and how many people can gather. So we are not looking at having much of real life events happening anytime soon, I fear. But I was able to go to this event. It was in our neighboring town, Seinäjoki, and buy some from these yarn vendors. And I think generally my yarn purchases of late have been geared towards buying from small businesses, either local yarn shops or directly from indie dyers, because well, these are difficult times for everyone, and I think if we can, I personally want to, and I would encourage anyone who can, who is able to support our small businesses. And if yarn is our passion, then we can support small, often driven by women, small businesses driven by women who make a living out of their craft. So I've actually bought quite a lot of artisan yarn lately, and I'll just show you also another yarn which I bought from the same, when I ordered this yarn from Ruskanlahti. I also bought this yarn from her, and this I think is just so pretty, so pretty. This one doesn't have a purpose, but this one you can actually, I could use this as a Christmas decoration because I think it's so pretty. This I think is not in one of her standard colorways. I think maybe this is a one of a kind, and this is her merino sock base, and the yarn is called Rantakallio, which means beach cliff. So it has all these sort of greeny yellows and grays and black and rust all combined. Don't know what this is gonna be, but it is very pretty, don't you think? It would actually go quite nicely with this one if you wanted to make yet another shawl or something. But that is also from the indie dyer Ruskanlahti. She lives up north in Finland and has a web shop. I think it's only in Finnish, but you can go and look at the colors even if you don't perhaps understand the language. Yeah, and then what else? I have a couple of projects or plans for projects for yarn that has been in my stash for a long time, and I've shown this before, I think, maybe in my very first episode. This is this is the Araucania nature wool yarn. I can see the camera is battling now to actually keep the color, because this is actually a much deeper red than what the color. It really is getting really dark, and it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. So I don't know where to place this so that the colors would be correct. Perhaps this is better. It's a deep blood red, I would say. It is hand dyed. It is a bit, so it has these darker patches here and there. It's 100% wool, and this, this is I don't know what to call it. It's not a curse because it's a lovely yarn, but this has already been 3 whole sweaters, and now it's balls of yarn. I've knit and almost finished 3 sweaters of it and found no, I don't love this enough to finish it, and have ripped them out. The latest one was just maybe a few months ago. That was the Arja hoodie by Meijo Knits. Meijo is also a Finnish designer, and a paid for pattern that I bought purposely to use this yarn for it. And I started, and I'm able. It's a hoodie, and you knit it from the top, but you knit it back and forth. But you knit the yeah. So it's a cardigan and a hoodie with a hood, and you knit sort of this way. You knit from front to front. You make the shoulder. You make shoulders with increases and decreases, and you divide for the sleeves, and then you keep knitting back and front. It has cables, it has bobbles, it has everything in it. It is a really nice pattern, and I would certainly have worn it had I been able to finish it. But what happened was I didn't have enough yarn. And I realized that when I was about, I had finished one sleeve, was working the other sleeve, and realized, no, I think it was the pattern with all the cables and everything. It was just eating too much yarn. I have 500 grams of this. This is a worsted weight yarn, and it would have, to be able to complete it with the hoodie and everything, or the hood, I would have needed more yarn. And it also, there was something about the fit. It was just a bit too wide over the shoulders. And with that kind of a pattern, it's difficult to adapt it because it has these quite intricate increases and sort of shaping over the shoulder. So modifying it is not very easy. So I realized that, no, this is not gonna work. I don't have enough to finish it, even if I perhaps had left out the hoodie or the hood. Maybe I could have finished it, but then there was something about those shoulders that just weren't right. So off it goes. And back off the needles and back into the stash. So now I am really looking for a pattern to use this yarn, because it's a nice yarn, and considering that I have actually ripped it out 3 times, it's still in perfect good condition. So do you have a suggestion for me? What could I make with this yarn that I would actually keep, that I could actually finish and wear and keep and love? I'm thinking something more, this time I'm thinking something plain. Not cables or too much of a pattern or a texture going on, but more of something, maybe just a sweater, not even a cardigan, maybe just a sweater with raglan sleeves. But I haven't found the perfect pattern, and I haven't really come up with. I could just make it, design it myself, just make it very plain. But I haven't got there yet. So, any ideas? Appreciate it. And then I have another yarn, which is also reappropriated from actually a store-bought sweater years and years and years ago. And this is what the yarn looks like. It is actually a really nice 100% wool yarn, roughly fingering weight, I would say. And it has this slightly heathered color. I don't know if that now shows at all. Yes, maybe a little bit. So it's not completely solid, but it actually has this light heathering to it, which is really nice. And this was a store-bought sweater. I think it was even an H&M sweater. Can you believe that? 100% wool sweater from H&M? That must have been last century. it may well have been, actually. But that I had bought, and I didn't like it. I didn't wear it because maybe I think it had this quite high collar, or it's like a big turtleneck, or that I found a bit itchy. I think that was, and then I realized that it was actually a wool yarn, and I thought, well, I can use that. So I ripped it out. I was actually able to I have masses of this yarn because it was actually held double. In that sweater, the yarn was held double. So I actually got twice the length of finger and weight yarn. But this has also been sitting in my stash because I really couldn't think what to make of it. And since it's kind of an airy yarn, it is a bit similar to Holst Supersoft actually in its texture, this one. And if you knit it up as a single yarn, it produces a fairly thin fabric and very light. It doesn't have that great of a drape, which makes it a bit challenging if you wanna. I think it would be better suited for cables or things like that. But I'm not really in the mood for cables for this yarn. So what I did, just as a bit of an experiment, is I put it together, or I made a swatch with a mohair that I also had in stash, and this is how it turned out. This is a pink silk mohair. It's the Rowan Kid Silk Haze that I've used for one of the hats that I showed the last time. And that's how it turned out. And I think this is really, really pretty. I like the color, and this produces a lovely fabric, and you can use thicker needles and still get a really nice and fluffy fabric. So I'm thinking that I might make a love note sweater out of this one. I could probably even make two with the amount of yarn that I had, with the reappropriated yarn. So that's a plan. Now, sorry, just gonna bend over. This is the Kid Silk Haze that I had in my stash also. Which I used for this swatch. But I realized that if I'm going to make a whole sweater, I do not have enough of this color or of this yarn. And well, of course, then that's what happens, isn't it? You think you're gonna knit from stash and you're gonna use your stash yarn, but then you don't have enough. So then you have to buy more yarn to be able to knit from your stash. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So I realized that if I want to use this yarn, then I have to buy some more. And of course I couldn't find, since this is one that I bought a long time ago as well, I couldn't find anywhere in Finland that actually stocked this colorway, this yarn in this colorway, so I had to order some more of this from the UK. I did order some more from the UK, from the Wool Warehouse, because this is a colorway that Rowan still has in production, but they are not exactly the same, which I suppose is what you would expect. Don't know if that shows. They're not exactly the same, but they are near enough. So I think what I'm gonna do is, because the love note is, you can look that up if you don't know what it has, but it has this fairly broad band of lace work on the yoke. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this old yarn, this old colorway for the yoke, and once I get below the yoke, I will use this new one, so that if there is a discernible change it's in a kind of a natural place where there is a change in the pattern anyway. So that's kind of my plan. We'll see what happens. You know, plans can also change. That has been known to happen every now and then. Yeah. And of course, what happens when you order yarn just for a purpose, which of course this one was for purpose. Well, then you have to order some more, don't you? Just because you get free shipping or you get something. That is what my husband would call women logic. I say it makes perfect sense. And now I'm trying to find the other yarn that I was gonna show you. Oh, it's it's rolled down almost under the bed. Which I also, when I bought this batch from the UK, from the Wool Warehouse, I also ordered some pretty yarn. This is the Choppel lace ball. So this is a lace weight yarn. It is 800 meters and it has these long color changes. So it means that when you start, you first have a long section of one color and then it gradually fades into another color, which also has a long section, and then it just has all these different sections of color following one another. And I didn't really have a plan. I just thought that these were really pretty, and I'm a sucker for lace and for for what should I call it, for almost useless lace. Not useless, but you know, not perhaps the most practical or the most wearable things, but if I'm going, I don't knit sweaters as process knits. I knit sweaters because I want to wear them, and that's also why I rip them out if I don't like them. But I can knit, but for process knits I knit lace or big circular shawls, for instance, is something that I can knit just for the process of it and just for the beauty of it. And so I'm thinking that maybe I will actually use this for a process, a lace knit. I'm thinking about maybe a circular shawl, but that I wouldn't be using as a shawl, but more as a doily, as a cloth for a table. We have in our dining table, or our dining table has a glass top, and underneath the glass top there are old wooden planks, boards that we have have been on a building, an outbuilding here on our property when we built our house. And I'm thinking that I could make a circular shawl or a circular doily that I would actually put underneath the glass top, so that you could see it through the glass and it would be on top of these old boards. So that's an idea that I might, where I might be using this yarn. Yeah, yarn inspiration. Yarn really inspires me. I think yarn, for me, yarn is the reason for knitting. If I don't like I don't knit stuff with yarn I don't like. If the yarn is ugly or if it doesn't feel right for the intended purpose, or if I don't feel the love for the yarn, I will not knit with it. Yeah. I think that's all I'm gonna talk about this time. Sorry if I'm being just a bit disconnected, but as I said, I'm just gonna shoot this time. I will try not to edit a great deal, so any bloopers, you know, they're out there for the world to see, because I just want to get this one out. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you are enjoying your knitting. I hope you are feeling the love for the yarn. Please drop me a comment if you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions what I can do with my for Araucania wool, or if you just want to say hi. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.